Good afternoon, colleagues. So I want to thank each of you for joining us today for our town hall meeting as we look to share with you the growing and contingency plans that we're developing for opening our university this fall 2021, consistent with the planning that's going on all of the UNC campuses, but also across the landscape of higher education in America as well. First, I'd like to thank all of you for the incredible work you partnered with us to deliver as high a quality education experience we could create for our students throughout this academic year. Despite the challenges of the pandemic, we have all worked very hard and very diligently together and in a healthy and safe way to ensure that we have been able to meet the expectations of our students and their families, but we've also been able to ensure that we're creating a healthy and safe environment for our faculty and staff to continue to do their work, and those who engaged in research and involved in our graduate students and advancing our institution, the external engagement with this community and continuing to ensure that our university, as a land-grant institution in the truest fashion of the land-grant institution, has reached out into this community and helped to understand its needs, its growing needs, whether that has been in Guilford County schools, that has been economic development, that has been through ag extension and working with our small farmers and farmers throughout North Carolina. And as we've worked with each other, ensure that we are providing support for those among us who have needed our assistance as well. And as we have worked together with healthcare partners, Guilford County Health Department, Cone Health, for example, to create testing and healthcare assessments to ensure that we are making provisions for those in our communities who may not have had easy access to testing, and the creation of a clinic on our campus to help deliver vaccines to our campus community, as well as to those in our community, especially in East Greensboro. And special kudos to Dr. Padanda Webb and members of our Student Health Center who have worked very diligently with colleagues on our campus to help understand the needs of the vaccine, help understand the needs and concerns of our families and our community, the fear of the vaccines, through education and support, have reached record numbers of vaccines being deployed to individuals in this community. I think we're approaching about 9,000 vaccine shots have now been delivered to individuals in our community, to faculty and staff through our university, and a growing number now of our own students who are taking the vaccine as well. So thank you for all that we've all done together as a team to ensure that we're meeting the expectations of our university to keep us all safe while conducting the business of the university at a very high level. Now, of course, we're preparing for commencement on Sunday. We expect about 1,600 students to be interested in commencement on Sunday. I think we will net somewhere in the 1,300 to 1,400 ultimately with their families in Truist Stadium. So please, if your schedules permit, come out and help us celebrate these students and their families for the hard work they've invested to earn their degrees during this unusual year. So we'll celebrate May 2021 graduates at 8:30 on Sunday morning, and we will begin the afternoon ceremony at 4:30 for the May 2020 and December 2020 graduates as well. We're expecting somewhere in the order of 1,200 to 1,300 of those graduates from last year as well. Again, very excited, very enthused about their readiness for a face-to-face commencement also. A number of you have been involved in the contingency planning for fall 2021, faculty, staff, and students on a number of the work groups. So I want to thank you for your service and sharing your perspective on behalf of all of our faculty and staff and administration as we address the tough challenges of preparing for opening our university as close to normal operations as possible in fall 2021. And what you hear today are the substantive recommendations that are grown out of these many work groups so that we may be able to not only share with you our best thinking, but also capture your feedback and answer questions that you may have as well. We have a very full agenda today as part of our town hall meeting. And so I want to make sure that we make provisions for the opportunity to share the information with you, but also ensure that we're providing time for substantive questions as well. The agenda calls for Provost McEwen to have an opportunity to share with you our best thinking about academic and research operations for fall 2021. Dr. Bethesda Webb and her team will share health and wellness protocols that we expect to be the framework for operations in fall 2021. Ms. Christina Brogdon, our Vice Chancellor for Human Resources, will share a perspective about return to work. And what she will share represents the consistent set of rules and protocols and guidance that all of the universities have received from President Peter Harms as part of the guidance for operating our university in fall 2021. Dr. Melody Pierce, Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs, will talk about the framework for student engagement, housing, dining, student support services, and the like through student life. And Mr. Andy Perkins and Angela Peterson will represent Vice Chancellor Robert Pompey and talk about budget, finance, and facilities updates in preparation for 2021. We will limit the conversation to those core areas and again, create significant opportunities for an array of question and answers for those lingering concerns or questions that you may have as well. Know that what we do in fall 2021 will be the very best thinking with a number of faculty, staff, administrators, and students engaged in the conversation on what's best for our university to create an educational experience that engages a high percentage of our students who are expecting to return to Greensboro, and many living on our campus and in our dining facilities this coming fall 2021. We must create the personnel, employees, to ensure that we're able to provide for and meet those expectations from staff and faculty and administration to ensure that we're making provisions to address those expectations around as normal as operational process as we can create for accommodating our university in fall 2021. With that in mind, I will turn now to Provost McEwen. Dr. McEwen.
Thank you, Chancellor, and good afternoon, colleagues. All, thank you for the opportunity to share with you for a few minutes. Before I begin to talk about our preparations for the fall semester, I'd like to take just a moment to thank you for your work during this current semester, which is fast coming to an end. And although not everybody will gather at commencement this year because of we're still in the midst of a pandemic, I hope that you will be thinking of your students and celebrating them as we try to meet for our first commencement in 3 semesters face-to-face on Mother's Day, this Sunday. I'd also like to take a moment quickly to thank everybody for the tremendous effort that you put into working together to see us through our SACS reaffirmation. This is my first opportunity to talk with a large group of people since then, so I don't want to miss the opportunity to say thank you, because I know that so many gave so much that to allow us to have no recommendations from our SACS accreditors, which means that we are entering the next academic year with an absolutely clean bill of health from SACS. We are looking forward to beginning the implementation of our QEP in July of this year. And we will next talk to SACS in 2026, when we will do our midterm review and present our QEP report. And then our next reaffirmation of accreditation will be in 2031, unless they change the date for one reason or another. So thank you all so much. About 6 weeks ago, Chancellor Martin charged the committee to start preparing for the summer 2021 and the fall 2021. And summer, we have been preparing since last year, September. So much of the work had already been done. So we have spent, please go to the next slide. We have spent much of our time preparing for the fall semester. Is anybody running the slide deck? Yes, yes, yes. I'll keep talking until it comes up. So the chancellor asked me to serve as the chairperson for the committee. And then we have a number of working groups which meet at least once a week to continue the work of the committee. And of course, we come together each week and share what we are planning, so we can make sure that there is some consistency among the work of the group, the various groups. If you have the PowerPoint and you wish to follow along, I am on slide number 3. And there are 6 working groups. They cover academics and research, business and finance, student affairs and enrollment management, athletics, communications, and health and wellness. And in each one of these 6 groups, we have a variety of constituents of the university represented. We have administrators, we have faculty and staff, and we have students at a minimum engaged in each one of the committees. And then if you have the slides and you look at it, you will see that there are 6 additional units that may not be represented necessarily as a working group, but they are there supporting the work of a variety of groups. And I say all of this just to say to you that we are trying to make sure that a wide range of voices are heard, that we consider the thoughts and the comments and the suggestions of the entire university community as we plan for the fall semester and refine plans for the summer. I will share now just a few of the major things that we have been working on so far. Number 1, summer school. Summer school for 2021 will look a lot like summer school of 2020. Most of our classes will be offered online, so students can take them from wherever they are. But we will make available classes remotely and a few sessions on campus, depending on the needs of your deans and your chairs. So we're speaking with them and just being responsive as we build out the schedule. The basic schedule has been available since the fall of last year. There will be some support, financial support in place to support students this summer. Most of our students will be happy to know that they will receive funding around about 6 credit hours maximum to encourage them to catch up if they need to do so, or to push ahead if they are already caught up, so that we will come out of the summer at a better place. So please encourage students to enroll in summer school and to take the opportunity that is being provided for them, because we have had some HERF dollars which we can use to support our students. For the fall of 2021, we will follow one of the two plans that we have been developing, which is our Plan A. Our Plan A will look a lot like the fall of 2019. So we are assuming that we will largely be back on our campus with all of our students having the opportunity to enroll in courses face-to-face on campus here in Greensboro. Now, this does not mean that everyone is being forced to return to the campus. It just means that everyone has the opportunity to do so. We will continue to offer some classes online where students may take them in the traditional online environment where they can take their classes at their own pace. And we will also offer some remote courses as there is need. So here again, we will take quite a bit of guidance from department chairs and deans who can let us know what students need so we can be responsive. The semester will look very much the same as it has been published for quite a while. However, there were some slight adjustments made, and the new schedule is available at the registrar website. And if you would go there, you would see, and in the PowerPoint, I created a link to the schedule, the academic calendar. I can tell you that we will begin as scheduled on the 13th of August for our faculty with the Faculty Staff Institute, which we believe will be a little bit of a hybrid delivery so that we can fit a large group of people as possible safely into Harrison Auditorium and then stream to those who are not in that room. Classes will begin on the 18th of October as scheduled. Then as we approach the middle of the semester, we are leaving fall break in place. We are hoping that we will continue to be careful and responsible on campus so that there will be no spike that will threaten fall break. So for now, fall break continues to be on the calendar. We are wrapping up the on-campus semester on the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. And for the 4 days between Thanksgiving and final exams, we will continue to interact remotely so students can continue to finish their last few hours of meeting times for their courses. And then we will administer our final exams in a virtual space. Faculty who have teaching assignments and require special considerations. For example, you have any reason why you are not able to come back to the campus when we resume in the fall, for the fall semester, please communicate with your department chairs and with your deans so that they can process and make decisions in the way we have always made them. The way we processed these during the pandemic, where everything went to the Division of Human Resources, will not be the way we will do it this year. We expect to be back to normal, so normal operations will require that you communicate with your department chair and your dean. So please feel free to begin to do so. Travel restrictions are still in place. Please understand that they have not been lifted by the university system. They have not been lifted by the state. So we have been considering an occasional travel because of things that we consider to be very critically important, whether because students are graduating or because they are mission critical for the institution. When those come before us, we take a look to make sure that they are relatively safe, that you are not putting yourselves at risk and returning to the campus and extending that risk to a much larger group of people. So please be mindful of that. And although we are not in a position to say that vaccinations are required, I would like to take this opportunity to tell you that we strongly encourage that you protect yourself and your community by taking your vaccinations when you have the opportunity to do so. And finally, I would like to just indicate, especially to faculty who are in the tenure track lines or who are due for post-tenure review this year. Last year, we offered an opportunity for everybody to have an extended year, and those who did not want it were able to opt out. This year, we are returning to the policy, which essentially says that if you have a special circumstance that leads you to require an additional year or to desire an additional year, please communicate based on the policy. Talk to your chair, talk to your deans, and we will review those on an individual basis. And we will be very, very sensitive to the needs of our faculty and make sure we do our very best to support you. So those are the main points that I want to share with you this afternoon. And of course, we will take questions near the end of the entire presentation. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Provost McEwen. I will now have Dr. Patanda Webb to share more about health and wellness protocols. Dr. Webb.
Thank you, Chancellor. Good afternoon, colleagues, and thanks for this opportunity to share some important information. Next slide, please. So testing is always available at the Student Health Center. If you ever need testing, feel free to stop in to have that done. We are continuing to offer rapid testing, and that will continue into the fall as well. And PCR testing, we have a lab that we're working with now that allows us to get those results back in 24 hours instead of that 72-hour window that we used to be able to get those test results back in. So again, testing is available. Students must have a negative COVID-19 test to be fully vaccinated prior to move-in. So that mimics what we did in the fall and the spring semesters, just to try to make sure that we at least start off with a baseline of a low COVID-19 volume on our campus. Mandatory testing, that occurs with the high-risk groups, such as athletics, ROTC, those people that are in contact with one another on a regular basis. And when we are attempting to address a cluster. So if there's a cluster in a particular area, then testing is then mandatory for that particular residence hall, and we will continue that same protocol into the fall. Fully vaccinated individuals will require less testing. Next slide. COVID-19 vaccine clinic. So our efforts as far as the health center is concerned will shift more towards prevention and trying to keep our campus as safe as possible. The vaccine is the way that we know that we can protect ourselves the best. So I'm encouraging you now to consider getting vaccinated. We are continuing to offer vaccine clinics, and they will continue through the summer and fall operations on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And we'll also offer a pop-up vaccine clinic on freshman week to try to target students that may not have been vaccinated prior to coming to campus. Non-vaccinated students will be encouraged to test on a routine basis, and vaccines are available for faculty, staff, students, and the community. So even your family and friends, if you want to sign them up for the vaccine clinic, feel free to do that. We offer Moderna at this particular site, so that's 18 and up. Next slide. We are continuing to develop protocols and working with HR on safe return to work. So the guidelines for returning to work, that will be updated and will be available for you soon. And the Aggies Care website is actually being updated to be consistent with the CDC guidelines and recommendations. We're working with Housing and Residence Life to ensure that all students are tested prior to move in, and Office of Accessibility Services to ensure that we are able to offer, there are a lot of people now that are having long-term COVID-19 symptoms, having chronic fatigue or having concentration issues and that sort of thing. So we want to remain sensitive to that so that we can provide services for them. Counseling services, this has been a difficult time for a lot of people when it comes to anxiety and depression, and we want to make sure that we're taking care of our faculty, staff, and students holistically. So counseling services is certainly available, and we are working to develop some protocols there as well. Next slide. Monitoring, so going into the summer and the fall, wastewater surveillance testing will be one of the ways that we will use to guide testing. And essentially what this is we have partnered with the research team, Dr. Muth's group, to go into various manholes strategically on campus to pull waste out of those manholes. We take that back to the lab, test it, and it gives us an idea of what COVID-19 is like in that particular area. So it's going to give us an opportunity to have a way of determining what area we will test next. If we see the levels are high in that particular area, based off of the wastewater surveillance testing, then we will target that particular area as far as testing. We will continue the dashboard updates, just trying to maintain transparency there. With the positivity ratings, number of positive employees and students, number of tests, and as clusters are identified, they are reported on the dashboard as well. So we will continue that into the summer and fall operations. Next slide. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A box, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thanks for your time.
Very much, Dr. Webb. Let me reiterate as well some of the comments of Dr. Webb. She and her team have done just an exceptional job with testing of members of this community, but also with our employees and our students as well. And that testing, that high level of testing, especially of our students, has helped us keep the campus safe. It helped us make good decisions at a time when we found that there was an escalating set of positive tests among our students during the course of the semester, and allowed us to make important administrative decisions to limit student interactions, limit dining in our dining facilities, and the latter. All of those helped us ensure, again, that we were working very closely together to keep the campus safe, but also to ensure that we were continuing to manage our students' access to their education. And you as faculty and staff have been flexible in accommodating the students when someone was ill or contracted the virus or whatever the case may be as well. And so this is the kind of engagement we will see necessary as we continue to move forward as well. So thank you. Next, we'll have Christina Brogdon, a Human Resources Update. Christina.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm happy to shed some light on some of the developments with return to campus planning. So next slide. Just a few points. What we're looking at is trends in the positivity rate and the vaccine distribution are moving A&T closer to a normal, or what I'm hearing, near normal operations for fall 2021. So we expect to see full capacity in housing and dining and those types of things. And so what happens on the faculty staff side are corresponding with those developments. UNC system guidance has affirmed the authority of the campuses to make return to work decisions to prepare for normal operations. My third box was developed prior to Friday. We received on late Thursday afternoon UNC policy guidance on the return to work or flexible work options policy. And so we'll be working with legal affairs to bring that to our campus and make updates to our current campus policy. Obviously, we're going to continue to push safety protocols. You're going to continue to hear about self-monitoring. You're going to hear about testing, as we have already. Wear, wait, and wash. We're going to hear about masking and those types of things, but safety protocols are here to stay. And we've already heard several plugs for vaccination. We are still in the realm of strongly encouraged vaccinations for faculty, staff, and our students, as well as our community. So if you have not received your vaccination, we just want to extend an open invitation. We're taking walk-ins. That is still an ongoing process for our campus. We want faculty and staff to be involved. Next slide. So what are we going to do to return to the yard? When I was in college, it was coming back to campus was a return to the yard. We're wrestling with what to call it, but in these considerations, the main thing you want to think about is we're coming back. And I'm so excited about that. So what I want you to do for now is anticipate a phased return. We know that faculty come back in August as usual, as normal. So we are excited to see our faculty back on the yard in August, and we anticipate staff will return in July. And in terms of a phased approach, what we have in mind is to identify different types of positional functionalities to return at the same time. And so we'll look at essential versus core operations versus customer facing or student facing type roles and the like, and determine how that return will facilitate so that it's not sort of mass hysteria. We know in many cases, several of you have been out or away from campus since last March. And so we're going to try to bring you back in a phased way to facilitate a smooth transition. So right now we've got a lot of current flexible work arrangements that are in place, have been approved through the abundance of the summer. But a lot of those arrangements, they're going to end this summer. And so as we're looking for fall, we're going to have to re-up these conversations about flexible work options. And so to the next point, in terms of reviewing what those options are, what you can do is expect a reduction of telework. Right now, we have 75% of our staff at some point working either hybrid or 100% off campus. What we expect for the percentage of employees who are 100% telework, we expect a diminishing of that number. And for the number of employees working a hybrid schedule, whereas now we're looking at people who come to campus 1 to 2 days a week, we're going to see a ramping up where you may be working a hybrid schedule, but more like 3 or 4 days a week, and in some cases 5 days a week. So what we're doing in terms of looking at our new policy, we'll be evaluating the process behind it. Right now, there's a flexible work request form that you can utilize to request flexible work options. We're looking at how we can make that digital, of course, so you will actually be looking at either a form or some sort of link to be able to request a flexible work arrangement, which can be anything from flexible location, flexible hours, flexible or telework as is the most popular flexible work option. Obviously, supervisor approval is required at every juncture. What we're talking about in terms of the delegated authority from the system office to the campuses, and what we're doing on our campuses is we're going to push those decisions to the supervisors. And so any sort of flexible work options, any level of approval has to go through the supervisor. And with that in mind, I've asked Linda Mangum, who is on the panel here with me, as well as our new director for our Center of Chloe. We are developing some training for supervisors on how to manage remote work options, telework, flexible work, because it's complicated. It was a little easier when the push was for at all costs to get off campus, and we were figuring it out along the way. And what we know now is flexible work is not going away, and nor should it. If we're looking at the future of work, we want to be able to capitalize on progressive options and those types of things, but we also want to be systematic and smart about how we do these things. So we have some training and development, and we'll be releasing that to the campus, to supervisors, so that to help facilitate these decisions. Next slide. So I'm looking at some of the common reasons for requests. You know, my inbox has been quite full since the provost made that announcement that we're coming back in the fall for instruction. And I've had several from faculty and staff and even some student inquiries about what does this mean for me? We have several who have increased health risk, either of self or family member. I've seen we have in some cases childcare and elder care concerns. Some still are sharing vaccination hesitancy, still don't want that vaccination. Do I have to come even though I may not be vaccinated? And in some cases, it's merely employee preference. We've kind of taken a liking to working from home and would like to keep those arrangements going. In some cases, again, commuting distance. We have some employees who live in Durham and that type of thing. And so thinking, hey, if I could save on gas, that would be great. So some possible solutions to explore along those lines, because what we're seeing is in many cases, remote work and telework have been an answer for that, for these situations. It's not going to be the only option at this point. So for individuals who have high health risk, asthma, diabetes, those types of illnesses, we need to explore FMLA and possibly ADA. As you know, with the Family Medical Leave Act, it provides up to 12 weeks of coverage, and that would be full-time coverage. It can be taken in an intermittent basis. And so in some cases, again, if you have asthma, that's not going to end in 12 weeks. So we may have to explore the Americans with Disabilities Act and look at a possible accommodation through that avenue. In these cases where we're talking about medical and health reasons, obviously we need medical documentation, and the medical documentation differs from an FMLA request versus an ADA request. So we want to be specific about what we're doing in weighing the options depending on what your health challenges may be. Leave without pay may be an option. In some cases, we're not going to be able to accommodate 100% remote work, that we've got the work must go on. In some cases, we may, based on what your circumstance may be, you may apply to be out on leave without pay for a set duration of time, and we can have conversations with your supervisor about those circumstances. Obviously, we're looking at flexible schedules. Again, if we're looking at trying to maintain social distancing, we may have a batch of employees come in 7 to 3, 7 to 4, 8 to 5, some 9 to 6, some perhaps as late as 10 to 7, just to make sure we're spacing the employees out depending on what the work situation or the workspace may be. And as always, there may be an opportunity for flexible location. So these are the types of conversations that need to take place with your supervisor. And again, office to office, it may vary, which is why you may see some variation in the response from your supervisor. Next slide. So in talking about flexible work considerations, obviously we're thinking about health and safety. We're looking at business and operational needs. We're talking about bringing back what we hope to be nearly 13,000 students back this fall. We're hoping that I can't wait to go to a football game. We're looking at a lot of stuff happening. I saw a question earlier about can we be in the gym in the rec center? Lord knows with this COVID wait, I need to be in that rec center. And so we're looking for operational needs and that sort of thing. There's also consideration of equity. I know in many cases, when a person makes a request to me, they'll say, but my friend that works over there, they get to do this, and why can't I do it? Well, we'll be looking at those things, but sometimes what works for one department doesn't always work for another department. Our office spaces are different. And so as supervisors, there are a lot of things we have to take into consideration, but we do want to make sure there's some level of equity and fairness at the department level, sometimes at the divisional level, and of course we'll be looking at it at the university level, but just want to help you understand equity is not the same. We just want to be in the ballpark of the level of freedom, because where we are currently and where we have been with flexible work, it's been strongly encouraged. That's going to move to being flexible work allowed. So you're going to see that diminishing level of flexibility, but there's going to be some variance that we'll all have to take into consideration. We also look at job duties. I have a receptionist in my office. She comes to work every day. That's not a job that's approved for remote work. It's not, the job doesn't lend itself to it just fundamentally. So in a review of a flexible work arrangement, we're looking at what those essential job duties are. We're looking at tools and resources needed. In cases where we're talking about an increased health risk, we're going to be looking at medical documentation. And last but not least, we're looking at a review of KSAs, that's HR speak for knowledge, skills, and abilities of the employee and the supervisor. There's some supervisors who aren't great remote work supervisors. They'd have no idea what the employee is doing. We can't find, in some cases with the employee, there's some employees that are MIA. We have to call or email you several times and we don't know where you are and not quite sure what's happening. In some cases, flexible work may not be the answer depending on what the job is and how the person performs their responsibilities, and that review also applies to the supervisor. Next slide. So the overwhelming question that I get that's in months and months and months is, do I have to? Do I have to come back? What if I don't want to? What if I can't? Do I have to come back to campus? The answer is yes. If your supervisor requires you to report to work on campus, you have to come back. You're able to ask for an accommodation. You're able to ask for and make a request for flexible work, but it is a request, not a directive. That, again, the realm we've been in, and I've got supervisors looking at me on the screen that I've had some heart-to-hearts to say, let them go, be flexible. Though that flexibility, you're going to see a diminishing of that push for the employees to be away. Our efforts are for you to come back home, for you to be back on campus. That is the livelihood of what we do. We are here to take care of our students, and we want to be here, and we can't invite the students back home and we not be here. Will there still be flexible work? Absolutely. We're going to be progressive, and this is A&T. This is what Aggies do. But it's not going to be to the extent that it has been. So overarching, and I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of questions in the Q&A, but I just wanted to put that out there. If your supervisor requires for you to return to campus, you have to. You can request for an accommodation, but it does not have to be honored the way you requested. I am asking, on the other hand, for supervisors. There's some who are kind of iron-fisted and the answer is no and always no. I'm asking you to consider requests that you get. And I'm asking you, when you can, to do it. It may not be the way they ask. They may be asking to be away 3 days a week and you can accommodate 1. That's probably not unreasonable. But people have different circumstances. And so there's going to be a lot of case by case. And so I'm asking for some back and forth. We're going to have to be willing to come to the dance together. If the supervisor and the employee will not be able to have a professional, respectful conversation about some of these issues, that we're in for a rough fall. But I believe that we are fully well able and capable of managing these conversations and helping our employees with some of the challenges they're facing, because the pandemic is not over. We realize that. But what we see from the data, from the vaccination protocols and the like, we're seeing, we're expecting executive order as early as June 1 to make significant changes to our protocols. What we expect is that we're going to be open back up. And what we are saying to you is we want you back on campus. So I appreciate your time. I know I'll be available for the Q&A to answer any subsequent questions you may have. Thank you.
Chancellor Martin, Todd Simmons, and University Relations. If I could just interject for a moment. We increased capacity for the webinar a few moments ago, and we have approximately 110 or so participants who have joined the call since then. Those of you who were late being able to get into the call, please know that we will post the full recording of this call, of this webinar, after it's concluded. And in the meantime, you're encouraged to post your questions in the Q&A so that if you missed any of the earlier dialogue and you'd like to comment, then please post those in there so we can get to your questions later. Thank you, Chancellor.
Thanks, Todd. And we should also add that the video of this town hall will also be posted to our website, so you'll have access to the full town hall conversation as well. And so, Todd, we want to make sure we get that information out to employees as well.
That's correct. Please check your email inboxes. We'll make sure and share the location of that recording with all of you, and would encourage you to share it also with colleagues who weren't able to join us today.
Thanks, Todd. I also wanted to highlight some of the key points that Christina made about returning to work. So the broader context is this: the governor will certainly be continuing to issue executive orders about North Carolina continuing to open up. He has also done that in the last month with at least 2 additional executive orders redefining attendance in various spaces, restaurants, bars, athletics venues, and the like, public schools opening up as well. We will continue to see that occur. The governor, in his state of the state address last week, spoke to his continuing desire to see our state opening up for business as we move into the summer, midsummer, and early fall. All businesses in North Carolina are monitoring, following the governor's executive orders. Higher education is no different. Private and public institutions, the University of North Carolina system. So the Board of Governors and the president of the university system, in their ongoing and consistent conversations with chancellors, chief academic officers, legal counsels, HR administrators, are all involved in weekly meetings about the opening of the university system, in this instance, all again aligned with the governor's executive orders and expectations and optimism about the state continuing to open up for business. K-12, higher education, community colleges, restaurants, corporate sectors, and many are focusing on a similar strategy as we are to move forward with plans to open for business increasingly as we move into the summer and toward the fall. All of this, of course, is contingent upon increasing vaccinations to citizens of our state, quite honestly, vaccinations to students who are attending our universities as well. So there's an expectation so that we are continuing to see increased vaccinations, reductions in positive COVID infections, hospitalizations, and certainly, unfortunately, deaths that may be continuing as a result of COVID-19. We're continuing to see in the state, and certainly right here in Guilford County, we're doing better than the state as a whole, continuing declines in positive infections among our citizens as well. So that bodes positively as we continue to look to the future for opening the university. So you have to look at that in context in terms of opening the university and Christina's comments a few moments ago around the expectations of all of us as employees of the university as well. And certainly we will continue to talk about this more. We'll keep you engaged and informed. We are certainly continuing to ensure we've got students' voices, faculty voices, staff voices, part of all of our work groups to ensure that we are making the best decisions for our university. And so with that in mind, speaking of students, certainly like to call on Melody Pierce as Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs to talk about student life as we envision it for fall 2021. Melody.
Thank you, Chancellor. Next slide, please. Yes. Good afternoon, colleagues. The presentation today will provide you with information on how we will reopen our student services units in the Division of Student Affairs, starting with Student Health Center. They will continue with the COVID-19 testing along with the vaccine clinic, and they will again encourage vaccinations for all. We will continue with our Healthy Brothers and Healthy Sisters program. We provide a required education module for all of our new freshmen and new transfers. The clinic hours for the upcoming year for fall and spring will be 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, with virtual visits on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Again, they will have service 7 days a week. Next slide, please. The Student Center, in collaboration with Dining Services, the Student Center will open for normal hours as noted on the screen. Beginning on August the 14th, the flow of traffic will be normal or by governor's executive orders and guidelines as to social distancing with face covering requirements. We will refresh all of the signage in the building to remind our students of the 3 W's. There will be, again, extensive cleaning and disinfectant measures on an hourly basis throughout the facility. External, individual, and group events reservations are restricted for this fall semester. Service areas will return to normal with face covering restrictions with priorities for our students. Next slide, please. The Campus Recreation Center will return to normal hours as stated. Normal capacity or modified capacity during peak hours will start on August the 18th. As the facilities will be limited to currently enrolled students only. Face coverings will be required along with the COVID-19 questionnaire and temperature checks. There will be a 2-hour deep cleaning shift for the facility, exactly from 2 p.m. to 4. Group exercise classes will be no more than 25 participants. And again, only currently enrolled students may use the facility. We will continue with our virtual group exercise programming, and esports will be an option for all students as well. In our intramural sports area, programming will be modified with face covering, COVID-19 questionnaire, and temperature checks. For those students who wish to participate in in-person programming, such as flag football, basketball, volleyball, etc. All indoor events will require face coverings for all students. Club sports travel will be limited to the university and will be restricted according to the university guidelines. Next slide, please. The University Event Center, which is, as you know it as the UEC. Again, reservations to external groups and individuals are restricted. Capacity for internal events will return to normal with face coverings required as stated by the governor's executive orders or guidelines. Faculty, staff, and student organizations and clubs will be able to secure meeting spaces through the online 25 Live system as noted below. For the academic departments, you may start making securing your areas starting May 3rd. That's tomorrow in the academic venues, and the departments and divisions again tomorrow. And for the student center, clubs and organizations, that will be determined by the student activities office at a later date. Next slide, please. In the housing and residence life, we will again use a tiered move-in process for select student groups. Each group will be given a designated date, time, and location by which to return to the campus. Special populations will start on June the 7th through August the 12th. New students will have a 3-day schedule. That's August 13th, 14th, in the morning of the 15th. Our continuing students will start on that afternoon of the 15th, and they'll run through the 16th and the 17th. This way we don't have a gridlock around the campuses. This worked very well last fall. All residence halls will receive thorough cleaning 7 days a week, multiple times per day. Residence halls expectations will be communicated to each student upon arrival through a series of virtual residence hall meetings facilitated by Housing and Res Life. Multiple locations will be identified for isolation and quarantine use if a student presents symptoms. Again, our COVID care coordinators will provide care for our students. We will be providing linen service, meals, and thin clients. These are the same services that we used last fall and worked very well. Visitation for fall 2021 semester may be restricted depending on infection rates. Next slide, please. For dining, all dining and retail operations will open with normal hours and 100% occupancy. Students will have to-go options, contactless payment, mobile ordering, and credentials with limited self-service stations. They will execute extended measures for sanitation in all areas and locations and provide additional cleaning services between meal serving periods. Everyone will be required to wear a face mask in the dining facilities. Next slide, please. Counseling Center will train campus community on how to recognize students in distress and make the appropriate referrals to the Counseling Center. They will promote mental health consultations. They will provide mental health consultations to faculty, staff, students, and their parents. They will offer outreach groups, workshops, and training on mental health issues and trends, as well as sexual assault awareness and prevention. They have on their website current resources and self-help tools are available on the website. They will help students with personal and emotional and developmental issues. They will provide training on academic skills, career appraisals, assist students with ADHD and LD concerns, provide psychological assessments, standardized tests, and drug, alcohol, and other addictive behaviors. Students will be able to receive help in these areas. Other campus training will include suicide prevention, trauma-informed care, gambling awareness prevention, LGBTQIA safe zone training, and mental health first aid. We will offer internships to master's level counselors and social workers. We will utilize our students as mental health advocates in the collegiate recovery programs, Active Minds, and other grant-supported initiatives. Next slide, please. In terms of student activities, we have a Plan A and a Plan B. This office will return to normal capacity with operations with face covering requirements and continued recommendations of vaccination and a negative COVID test result. For our students, clubs, and organizations, we'll return to normal programming and events with face covering requirements and continued recommendation of vaccination and negative COVID test results. Homecoming. The Homecoming Committee has already started meeting. We are reviewing all activities and events. We will follow the CDC guidelines as well as any orders from the governor's office. Next slide, please. This is Plan B. It will begin with virtual programming and then shift to a hybrid model after census date, which I believe is September 1. While monitoring updates on scaling to larger face-to-face programming and events. They will hold ongoing student meetings with student clubs and organizations to ensure that all parties are knowledgeable of the COVID requirements and restrictions before moving to more face-to-face events. They will modify or reduce capacity of on-campus homecoming events. Reduced programming will be based on given guidelines. Student clubs and organizations will begin the semester with virtual programming and then shift to the hybrid model after census date. Next slide, please. The band. Our fabulous band is accepting auditions for the 2021-2022 season for our current A&T students. The university band is equipped and safe with appropriate PPE for student instruction and will continue to follow the most current safety precautions as recommended by the CDC, the governor's office, the UNC system, and university officials. The band will continue to provide entertaining performances during home games that will engage the student population and the public while adhering to state and university guidelines and restrictions. Next slide, please. Enrollment management will continue to provide services to our students virtually via Zoom with limited in-person appointments due to space limitations. This is especially important if students have business with the Office of Financial Aid and Scholarship, the Treasurer's Office, and the Registrar's Office. The enrollment management communication page is available online as noted on the screen. Welcome Week activities are tentatively scheduled for August 13th through the 21st. We will move forward with the hybrid model that incorporates more in-person and virtual events with appropriate safety measures in place. There will be additional opportunities for continuing students who have not yet registered to register for courses in June. Next slide, please. And our TRIO program for the SSS, they will continue to offer virtual appointments for the fall. And virtual services include video and phone conferencing. In-person appointments need to be scheduled 24 hours in advance by contacting the office through either the Blackboard, email, or by telephone. In-person service options are available weekly on Tuesday through Thursday with pre-registration required. Walk-ins will be directed to a conference room where capacity will be limited. Students will be required to wear face masks for all in-person visits. Students may submit documentation securely online with automated forms using the web portal, by US mail, fax, or by fax. Tutoring will be available to students via the online platform called Upswing. All large events, such as the open house, welcome back resources, and the weekly freshman information sessions, the fall senior recognition celebration will transition to a virtual format. Recruitment drop-ins will be limited to 5 to 10 pre-registered students per session due to, again, space limitations, with virtual options to accommodate larger groups. The flow of traffic will be adjusted to align with physical distancing guidelines, and signage will be placed throughout the unit. Next slide, please. These are some resources as noted. Calendars, information for our current students. These are live links, so you and the students and their parents, or you may be able to go out and click on them for more information. Next slide, please. We're wishing our students good luck on those exams. We look forward to seeing all of them and hope that they'll have a very productive summer. And we are saying, please consider getting vaccinated. Be mindful of your surroundings at all times, and please keep one another safe. Faculty and staff, I appreciate all that you do for our students. The Division of Student Affairs looks forward to our continued collaboration and partnership for 2021-2022. Thank you. Next slide.
Thanks very much, Dr. Pierce. At this time, Robert Pompey and Andy Perkins, Angela Peterson, Finance and Facilities Updates.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Chancellor, and good afternoon to our faculty and staff that are tuning in to us, and a special shout out to my teammates on the staff. What we thought we would talk about today is to really give you an update on our plans from a facility standpoint, not only in our buildings and et cetera, but also in our retail locations, and to also update you as to what we'll be doing to keep you safe as it relates to shuttle operations. Probably very few of you use our shuttles, but we would like to update you on that also. So I do thank Andy and Angela today for just providing this information and great news to you. So Andy, I will turn it over to you, and if we can go to the next slide.
Go back one slide, please, Robert. Good afternoon, colleagues. As we welcome you back to the university, Angela Peterson and I will give you a joint presentation because many of our responsibilities overlap one another in terms of the facilities that we have responsibilities for. Next slide, please. We are strongly recommending, once again, that we will be wearing face coverings as we return in August. We will be issuing 5 cloth face coverings to each student and faculty and staff member who returns in the fall. We expect you to continue to have social distancing, as well as to wash your hands frequently throughout the day in order to continue to have not only yourself safe, but others that you come around. Next slide, please. We will continue our campus preparations in terms of, we have already started our initial deep cleaning after this fall semester with our staff, our housekeepers, as well as our skilled trades folks. We will continue to do that for the next 5 to 10 days. We will do it once again in the first 2 weeks in August in order to support again the deep cleaning operations as we prepare to receive you back in August. Next slide, please. We will continue this process throughout the summer in terms of making sure that our conference rooms, physical fitness areas for both athletics as well as our fitness center are maintained throughout the summer period. Our staff of 75 housekeepers and our 38 skilled trades folks and our grounds folks will continue to make sure not only the facilities are well maintained, but we also, in our HVAC folks, will continue to improve the airflow in all of our buildings to ensure that when you do return in August, the heat of the summer, that we will have the maximum opportunity to, in fact, provide positive influences for you on your return. Next slide, please. We have more than 1 million items of disinfecting supplies as face coverings in terms of disposable face coverings, hand sanitizers, sanitizing wipes, and cleaning disinfectants. We will continue to operate with you going through the building representatives to determine what the requirements are for your individual buildings. We will then have those building representatives to coordinate with Stephen Rogers and our central receiving, and we will be able to deliver those to you, or you can pick them up from our central receiving in order to make sure your places are squared away. Next slide, please. We will also continue in terms of reception areas and large gathering areas to provide portable and hand sanitizers stands in each of the public areas. We'll do the same thing for sanitizing wipes. We will continue to maintain the plexiglass protectors in these high volume areas, as well as we'll continue to what we call hot spots to clean the doorknobs, the elevator buttons, and all those ancillary things in order to, as we receive visitors, to make sure we are safe for all the folks on the campus. Next slide, please. These are some of the representative things we did since March of 2020. We'll continue to have signage on our elevators, continue to have hand sanitizers and sanitizing wipes in our computer rooms and in our various classrooms. As you can see, we'll also maintain the plexiglass in all of our high visible areas where we have outside visitors visiting the campus. Next slide, please. In terms of space recommendations, we continue to believe that we should maintain virtual meetings as much as possible. If you are going to have in-person meetings in your conference rooms, then we expect to have the 6-foot separation in terms of social distancing, as well as wearing masks as appropriate during these activities. Next slide, please. We have over 800,000 signages throughout in our warehouse. We will refresh the signage as we finish the cleaning for the next 2 weeks. As you return in August, we'll also refresh it again to make sure that we have appropriate signage throughout all of our facilities to ensure safe egress through those facilities. We have also the capacity to be able to order new signage or unique signage if necessary. We can get that done within 48 hours. So we'll also accept those requirements as well. Next slide, please. We'll continue to recommend very strongly social distance in our large auditoriums. Next slide, please. Also, our medium-sized auditoriums like the Deese Tower, Deese Auditorium in Business Economics. Next slide, please. We also recommend very strongly that as you return to your office environments, if you're in a cubicle environment, at least one workspace separation should be between individuals. We also look for that if you have cubicles, the workstation should also be back to back rather than facing each other. And we'll also provide additional supplies for those folks who believe that they can clean their spaces much better than, of course, housekeeping staff. Next slide, please. In terms of laboratories, we understand that the laboratories are essentially off base for many of our housekeeping folks. So we will provide sanitizing and cleaning materials to each of the PIs so they can clean and sanitize their laboratories as necessary. If you believe that we can do it without our team and you make a requisition for that, we can also make that happen as well. Next slide, please. On classrooms, we do recommend very strongly that we continue to reduce the capacity by 1/3 in order to keep the 6-foot distancing. We will also utilize every other row. And of course, as I mentioned before, we'll provide hand sanitizers and stands at each of the areas in terms of classroom entrances, as well as auditoriums and conference areas. We understand that this guidelines will continually change between now and August, but we are prepared to do whatever is necessary to ensure that as you return in August, that we'll have a very safe and wonderful environment. Next slide, please. Angela?
Okay, thanks, Andy. Aggie Donning, we will continue to have our hand sanitizing stations at every entry and exit locations as we currently have throughout all of our retail operations, including our dining facilities. And I just wanted to say thank you to Andy and his team for providing us with those supplies, and having them on campus has been so convenient for us, keeping them replenished and in stock throughout our operations so that we can maintain a safe environment for our students as well as our faculty and staff. And we will continue to keep our plexiglass in place as shown in the picture to make sure that we do keep that shield of separation between our students and guests from our employees. The takeout option will still remain available. We continue to offer it in Williams as an option for our guests that dines with us. The 3 W's, we will honor and adhere to the 3 W's in all of our locations, where we will make sure that we have signage to accommodate that as well. And of course, we will continue to clean and sanitize all of our operations throughout the serving periods, each and every day of the week. Next slide, please. Signage. We planned, as said in the previously from Andy as well as from Dr. Pierce, we're going to do a refresh. This is what our signage look like now. We know over time that it does continue to wear and become worn out. So come this August, we would refresh all of our signage in all of our locations. Thank you. Next slide. Aggie shuttles. For those of you who do ride the shuttle, we will continue to wipe them down and disinfect them daily. Of course, our students have the opportunity to use the Passio app. And what that does is it tracks our shuttles' arrivals, their location, what time to the next destination. And it's a mobile device that they can use from it's a web device, the app that they can use on their mobile phones. We will continue to keep our plexiglass in place, which is a form of additional protection between our riders and the driver. And of course, everyone will be required to wear masks. Next slide, please. And as a way to continue to make sure that we have like contactless options for our students, faculty, and staff, we do have the GET app that is available. And within that GET app, on the applications, you can store your Aggie One card, which we call it mobile credentials, in which you have the opportunity to show your Aggie One card from your mobile device. Inside of that app, you also have contactless payment, which allows you to use your different methods of payments through the app, as well as mobile ordering. And you can also do your photo submission for orientation as it comes this summer and our freshmen are arriving. They can submit their photos through the website or so through Aggie One card for submission. We will, as we open the fall semester, we have e-tickets for events for our students and for any type of student event or as well as athletic events. And of course, we will continue to move forward with our keyless mailbox that we have currently for our students for packages and mail pickup. Next slide.
We believe that our teams will be more than ready to provide a very safe and sanitary facilities throughout the campus as you return on August 18th. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Robert, any additional points?
No, sir, Chancellor, we're excited about the fall.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Andy and Angela. Todd, we'll now turn to you to respond to an array of questions from our faculty and staff.
Thank you very much, Chancellor. And for everybody on the call, especially those who were able to join us late, the recording of this will be available at ncat.edu/coronavirus/Aggies-care. And we will post that as soon as it becomes available from the Zoom iCloud recording. Secondly, as you could see from this call, there are a lot of moving parts as we return to operations that are more like pre-2020 standards. Don't trust the rumor mill. Do trust sessions like this, info that you get from the university via email and on the Aggies Care website. And then just lastly, hats off to all of you. The dashboard, as of today's update, shows that in our most recent period, we're at only 4.22% positive test and just a little over 5% overall. That's an extraordinarily great reflection on all of you and what you've done to keep us at that very low infection rate level. We have a lot of questions that we're trying to get to. And for the first one, let's go back to Mr. Perkins. Ms. Perkins, relative to one of your final slides, somebody writes to say cubicle configurations present limited social distancing spacing. Is the university planning on extending plexiglass up to the ceiling with cubicle configurations to provide additional protection for those working inside those cubicles?
We'll look at those on an individual basis, but when you start extending to the ceiling, you also reduce the airflow in the facilities as well. So we'll look at those on a case-by-case basis, work through your building rep, and we'll certainly look at those over the summer and have those in place if necessary by the time faculty return on the 18th of August.
Thank you, Mr. Perkins. And as he says, if you have a specific concern about your space, bring it to the attention of your building manager. Let's not have people working under anxious conditions, but do your best to get that problem solved as quickly as possible. I'm sure that facilities will work with your building manager. The second question is one that we touched on earlier. Some universities only accept students who have had a vaccine for face-to-face courses? Does our university have this plan? As we said earlier in the presentation, A&T and the other 16 campuses of the UNC system cannot put such a plan in place because of statutory prohibitions at the state level that prevent the UNC system from doing that. So in order for A&T or any other member of the UNC system to be able to put such a plan in place, there would have to be some action taken by the General Assembly. So as of now, May 3rd, 2021, we do not have a plan like this in place and cannot put one in unless the system and the General Assembly address that prohibition in some way. Third question, and this is again, the UNC system not requiring the COVID-19 vaccine for return to campus, but will high-risk faculty and staff be given a choice to continue to work and teach remotely in light of that? And Christina, let's go back to you for this one, please. Vice Chancellor Bragdon.
Faculty and staff who have high-risk health behaviors are not necessarily given remote work as in before. As I mentioned earlier, we're seeing a diminishing of flexibility with remote work. It's going to be allowed, not necessarily strongly encouraged. So if you are high risk, work with your supervisor on what that may mean for you and your healthcare provider, because what we see is largely many facilities, including our facilities, will be opened back up.
And if you have those kind of concerns, it's best to address them early. Get them in front of your supervisor, begin the process of trying to get cleared for that sort of flexibility early, so that if you really have a legitimate need, it can be addressed. If you wait until late in the summer to do that, it makes it more difficult for everyone else. Thank you, Vice Chancellor Bragdon. Next question. We were informed teaching assignments delivery mode would be determined by HR, and that process would not be available until late in the summer. But now this states that it will be handled by deans and chairs. So could we get perhaps a response from both academic affairs and human resources for that question? Vice Chancellor Bragdon, let's start with you.
I've been in consultation with Provost McEwen, and the process will differ. The process of processing requests for flexible work options will happen with deans and chairs.
Great. And so relative to the teaching assignment delivery mode, also any response from academic affairs regarding that?
Todd,
Yes.
we are looking at, as I said before, returning. There's noise in my background, I'm sorry. We're looking at returning to the fall of 2019. Deans and chairs set academic schedules, but deans and chairs have always been the ones who review the needs of faculty and determine how to manage the entire group so that we can achieve our goals around distance education courses that need to be delivered because we have online degree programs, or our traditional on-campus courses. I'm not sure what communication is being cited in terms of HR making the decisions this semester, because we're only now getting the information out. In the spring of 2019 and the spring of 2020, then of course we had more severe circumstances than we have now. And at that time, we processed everything through HR, but now we are going back to giving deans and chairs the authority to make their decisions. Now, if we are talking about any kind of severe illness that requires special accommodations, those would go to HR, but those have always gone to HR.
Great, thank you very much, Provost. We're getting a number of questions in the Q&A here relative to vaccination. We've already answered that several times, but please know that the volume of these questions is being noted, and we will certainly pass those on to the proper administrators to ensure that at least what we're hearing from campus is shared with the system. Someone poses the next question: will face-to-face students finish the final 4 days of the semester after Thanksgiving online? And the answer to that is yes. This differs from last fall, of course, in that students completed their classwork on the day before the Thanksgiving break began, and then they were released to go home for the rest of the year and into early 2021. This time, there will be an additional week of instruction that will take place solely online after Thanksgiving, and then examinations that will take place largely online. All of you have a role to play in making sure that students keep that top of mind. We don't want this to be a surprise to anyone, even though we've already begun communicating this campus-wide, that there will be an additional week of instruction fully online after Thanksgiving.
4
The next-
days. It really is 4 days. Monday
4
through
days,
Thursday.
not a full week.
Friday's reading day.
Friday's reading day and optional, perhaps, shopping day. Next question: in terms of assessment, will the university ever move toward a system in which faculty would evaluate chairs and deans? This has never happened in my school or department. Provost, let's go back to you for that one.
Well, we do. We do evaluate our chairs and our deans. And yes, it happens on a fairly regular basis. It should be happening about every 3 to 4 years, where we have a survey set up through OSFI. They gather all the data through surveys, as I said, a Qualtrics survey usually. The data would go directly to them, so it does not go to the people you are evaluating. And then OSFI summarizes it and sends it over to my office. And we make sure that we communicate with chairs and deans through the annual evaluation process. If you've been here prior to 2018, you probably would have participated in it at least once. The last time I recall us administering the survey was in 2018. And of course, we had the interruption of the pandemic, and we're going to work our way back to getting back on our routine so that faculty and staff do have the opportunity to participate in the evaluation of the academic leaders.
Great, thank you, Provost. The next question I think I can answer: will we continue to receive protective gear, including masks, cleaning supplies, hand sanitizer, and wipes for classrooms and offices in the fall? Well, as you can see from those gorgeous slides that Mr. Perkins shared, we have ample cleaning supplies and protective equipment that will be available to everyone. You will not lack for appropriate cleaning supplies and sanitizing supplies to keep your workspace and your classrooms clean, and to ensure that they are taken care of even in between visits by janitorial staff. So don't worry, the supplies are here and they will be made available to you. Pardon me. Mr. Pompey, let's return to you for this next question. One of our questioners asks, will there be a bonus for those who have been working on campus throughout the pandemic?
Thank you for the question. Unfortunately, we will not be paying bonuses. If you did recall, when we were in a much more restricted mode as far as return to campus, we did have a certain number of our employees that were working that did receive extra pay for that time. But going forward, I don't anticipate that we would have a bonus process in place.
Thank you, Mr. Pompey. Chancellor Martin, let's turn back to you for this very thoughtful next question. One of our participants asks, will we maintain the efficiencies and quality of life benefits that we've learned over the past year? Virtual meetings being the default, flexible work schedules encouraged as long as student customer service levels are maintained, et cetera. And though we know that some of those things, like flexible work schedules, will be a little bit more tightly regulated, we clearly have learned a lot as a university over efficiencies and quality of life and service benefits that we've learned over the past year. How will we manage those, Chancellor, going forward?
And it is an excellent question, and we've talked some at senior staff meetings about capturing the best modes of operation of our university that we have grown into during this most critical time of the pandemic, that we now deliver goods, services, instruction through a virtual delivery mode. And as we move into fall 2021, post-pandemic, beginning post-pandemic, and thereafter, we'll continue to explore those areas of our operation that we should continue to engage in virtually. So now, as we return to work, as Vice Chancellor Brogdon has suggested, the core of our workforce will return to face-to-face engagement on our campus. Instruction, delivery of services, offices open and engaging with students and visitors to our campus, as most businesses will return to a normal mode of operation. We will identify within our business practices where there are the most appropriate areas where we should continue virtual engagement. Meetings like these, for example, are areas we're thinking about where they serve a very important and useful way of engaging with faculty and in staff, because we're much higher participation level, for example, and persons are able to continue to be involved and engaged. We will explore areas where it is appropriate for teleworking to continue. There are just some functions on the campus where teleworking is not going to be the most appropriate way of engaging with our students and with our campus and the operations of our university as we move forward. So yes, we are exploring what those opportunities will be. We are actually budgeting resources that would stimulate some of those activities to continue virtually, for example. Many of us, like you, are engaged in meetings with our colleagues and peers in higher education around the nation as a whole. And there are conversations about how do we continue to improve, enhance our universities, our organizations, our businesses, functions in a more efficient way as we look to the future. We will do no less than provide those opportunities for our campus as well. And again, the role we play, the business we're in, will only provide for opportunities in select areas of opportunity. So we'll have to be judicious in the way we evaluate and agree to those services being available only online, for example, or developed and delivered virtually, for example. And so innovation has got to be key to how we look to the future. And I would expect we will continue to be smart about how we have these conversations. I would also suggest to you that it is important to get high levels of feedback from you as employees so that we continue to operate in a most efficient way. I would also suggest to you that sometimes we can be our most critical adversaries when we look at our university from our employees. But yet when you back away and look at where our university is, we have outperformed most every university in the UNC system. Budgetarily, our financial statement and strengths, enrollment growth, engagement in educating our students, enhancing our partnerships and collaborations with a variety of organizations who want to continue to partner with us in almost every major category. And so as employees, when you're quick to criticize, I would encourage you to reflect on how successful we've been. And that just hasn't happened in a vacuum. We've all been informed and engaged and contributing to our success this past year. We should celebrate our success. Now, how we continue to look to the future means that we've got to continue to do some of the same kinds of positive things we've done this past year in particular. and engaging in the most effective and substantive ways, and continue to look forward to exciting times and opportunities for our university.
Chancellor, thanks very much for that. And as Chancellor Martin noted, on these virtual town hall meetings that we've had so many of over the past year and a half, our attendance for these has ranged from around 400 on the low end to 1,600 on the high end, clearly more than we would typically have gotten for these kinds of things in person. So this is one of those areas where innovation has allowed us to accommodate many more voices and people than we otherwise would have in those environments, a lot more convenient for folks. If you have your own suggestions, please share them with your supervisor so that they can be managed up the chain. If you think there are areas where we've particularly excelled in some of the innovations that we've made, let's not lose track of them. Make sure you share them so that they can be considered further. Provost, we'll go back to you for the next one. What are the plans for allowing professional and conference travel for faculty going into the fall term?
We're hoping to have some guidance around the release of the travel halt under which we are now operating. Right now, we do not have permission for large-scale travel, but I think in many ways, as more of our community gets vaccinated and the pandemic gets under control, that travel will return to normal. In the meantime, we have to observe the guidance that's provided for us by our state and our university system. And as I said in the beginning of my presentation, right now we are looking at travel on a case-by-case basis. We are looking at the importance of the travel to the students who are asking to go to various competitions, etc., or to the faculty who are needing to travel to engage in their research or to share the findings of their research. We're trying to look at each one. We want to be very, very responsible. We do not want to authorize travel that will put people at greater risk individually, or to put our community at greater risk as our colleagues return from travel and rejoin the university community. So the short answer is, if you believe it's mission critical, please submit it. We will take a close look at it and we will do the best that we can. But we are still being very cautious.
Thank you, Provost. Vice Chancellor Pompey, let's return back to you here for a moment. A questioner writes, a moratorium was placed on most salary increases toward the beginning of the pandemic. When should we expect the moratorium on those increases to be lifted?
Todd, thank you again, and thanks for that question. That is a system office moratorium, and we really would have to await them. I do think what is important to note, and I think one of the things that we may take for granted is that there are a number of universities in our system that had financial challenges, and as a result, they had to lay off employees, or they had to RIF employees. They had to, a number of employees were faced with some salary constraints. We were not faced with that at North Carolina A&T. Therefore, we might not understand the need for a moratorium on those salary increases. As things improve within our pandemic and within the financial condition around our federal, state, and our local areas, I would expect those moratoriums to be lifted, but stay tuned for more information.
Great, thank you very much, Mr. Pompey.
I would also add to Ms. Pompey's comment.
Yes.
Comments and suggest that the legislative process budgetarily for our state has begun. That process began with Governor Cooper and his team preparing the state's budget as part of the first leg of the process, if you will, that the House and Senate will react to and develop their own versions of the budget. Ultimately, the process will result in the legislature, both chambers approving a budget and sending that one budget to the governor for review and approval and signature. As you remember, last year, the legislature did that, and subsequently the governor vetoed the budget, which meant we were operating this year on the same budget we had last year for the Constitution for our state. Now, I say that to say in the governor's budget for this year, he has included funds for salary increases for state employees, teachers in our public schools, state employees, inclusive of community college employees, as well as university system campus employees as well. A one-time bonus recommendation for all employees in the UNC system, and in the first year of the biennium, and then in the second year, a percentage increase that will be a base salary adjustment. I don't have those numbers before me at the moment, but you should know that that process has begun, and the governor has petitioned in his budget an expectation for pay increases for state employees. And so we'll have to wait and see how that continues to evolve through the deliberations of the House and the Senate. As those discussions are occurring, I'm certainly sharing with our state legislators, our Gifford County delegates, and as Speaker of the House and the Senate Pro Tem leader, Phil Berger, that pay increases are critically important, and that's true across most of our campuses. Our chancellors and their legislative representatives are having these same discussions, the president and his team as well. So individuals recognize the importance of the significant contributions of our employees in the university system and the important need for focus on salary increases being a priority for the state legislators and the governor this year. So stay tuned. We'll keep you informed of how that continues to shape out.
Chancellor, thank you for that very thoughtful answer. And I know we have just a few more minutes of your time. Would you also care to share the status of funding that's being proposed to help A&T address its doctoral research mission?
Yes, thanks, Ty. Great question. As we shared with our faculty and staff in the past, as we were approved to move from master's category to doctoral conjugate class by the Board of Governors in 2005, before I arrived as chancellor on the campus, we began requesting, as soon as I arrived here, to recognize, as we as a campus agreed through PREMS 2020 and 2023 now, that we would begin to aggressively realize our conjugate class as a doctoral research university. That meant, though, that we needed additional infusion of resources. In a similar way, the university system and the legislature had provided funding support for UNC Charlotte and East Carolina when they made the transition from master's category to doctoral research R2 universities back in 2000. We shaped out, as part of that discussion with the president and the Board of Governors and subsequently state legislators, they agreed. If they did this for those other institutions, they should also do it for North Carolina A&T. The dollar amount of $10 million of recurring funds were agreed to. The first portion of that, $2.5 million, were provided to us 3 years ago. Those funds have been invested in our university for new faculty resources, staff positions, and graduate student support. Had nothing to do with salary increases, of course. The remaining 7.5 of that $10 million, excuse me, was included in the legislative budget deliberations last year. All 7.5 million of the remaining amount, because the legislature agreed fully we needed to go on and provide the full dollar amount. As we had advocated, you can't nickel and dime us over the next 8-10 years. Give us the remaining money so we can invest it on our campus. The legislature agreed, included it in the budget. Again, it happened to be, unfortunately, the budget the governor vetoed last year. So we have been back at the conversation with the legislature, with the president, with the board of governors, and the legislature and the leadership of the legislature and our delegates and the Black Caucus are working on our behalf to get that $7.5 million back in the budget again this year, with the expectation that the governor will not veto the budget this year. If that happens, that would be a huge decision and investment for our university that would be made available to our institution come July 1. And so we are making every conscious effort to speak to everyone who will listen on our behalf to make that happen. And we have a high level of confidence that indeed will occur this year again by the legislature, and we anticipate the governor then will sign the budget this time. So we expect that indeed to be the case. We've also asked the legislature to continue to provide additional federal, state dollars to match the federal dollars we receive as a land-grant institution from the Department of Agriculture. They've made provisions for at least a dollar-for-dollar match in the amount of $2 million to $3 million. That's non-recurring. So we've asked the legislature additionally this year to include that $3 million in the budget this time, so that it is recurring. That is, it will remain in our budget year after year. There is strong support for those two items, 7.5 doctoral research funds and the $3 million recurring for our land grant mission matching funds that we received from the Department of Agriculture.
Thank you, Chancellor, for those two very complete explanations. There are no two greater examples of equity and the way that it has not been addressed fully yet for our institution than those two. So for those of you who get questions from folks who don't work at A&T about equity as it relates to our institution, those are two great examples to hold up. They certainly need to be addressed, and we're grateful to Chancellor Martin and others in leadership for doing that. Let's turn back to Dr. Webb for a pair of questions. Dr. Webb, what is the protocol for students who receive positive tests? For example, will they need to provide documentation of a positive test? And if they do, what are their responsibilities to keep up with their work, particularly to disincentivize those who want to take advantage of the system?
So yes, if a student tests positive for COVID, they are provided documentation that outlines their quarantine period. So you'll know the start and the end date of their quarantine period. At that point, they are to submit that information to their professors and request accommodations from that point. So that's kind of the process when someone tests positive. Try to get in with whether or not the professor is going to excuse it or not. But we do provide the documentation for the professors to be able to make the decision. And we do work with accessibility services if the student needs additional time.
Great, thank you, Dr. Webb. Earlier in the conversation, you mentioned the Office of Accessibility Services will provide accommodations for students with COVID-19 long hauler symptoms. And I hope by now that we're all familiar with that term, long hauler, and at least some idea of what it means. But what about employees? What should they do for accommodations if they are COVID-19 long haulers? Dr. Webb?
So I would encourage you to get in touch with Ms. Brogdon's office in Human Resources for special accommodations there. They have set up some protocols there to take care of people who are continuing to struggle with the effects of COVID-19.
Great, thank you very much, Dr. Webb. Provost, let's come back to you for a couple of academic affairs questions. Number one, will face-to-face classes be at full capacity, or will social distancing remain in place?
It very much depends on how the pandemic, where the pandemic is at the time we begin the fall semester, and what the guidance is that we are receiving from CDC and also from our state, and anything that might come from the university system. As you might recall from the presentation made by the physical plant, we are going to be preparing for the worst, but we are in fact hoping that things might be better than we're preparing. Right now, we are thinking maybe 3 feet distancing, but the physical plant is still looking at 6 feet if that is what we need to do. The fact is, we know what our plans are. We do have a plan B if things require it. It is very difficult for me to say this is what it's going to be. Just know that we are planning, and we're planning for contingencies.
And there are so many things that are in flux right now. As we know, the governor has discussed lifting social distancing and mass gathering restrictions on June 1. If the state reaches certain benchmarks with regard to its COVID vaccination rate. And so some of these things may change. That's particularly why we need to continue to stay in touch with all of the university's communications channels. Provost, the second one here, if a student falls on academic suspension, will they still be able to receive the special funding that is being offered for summer school this year? And Provost, not sure whether that's applicable to you or Vice Chancellor Pompey, but please, whichever one of you it is, feel free to jump in.
If the student is allowed to enroll in classes, then the student will most likely qualify for the support that is being offered. And I do invite Vice Chancellor Pompey to weigh in on that as well.
That is correct.
Okay, let's turn back to Vice Chancellor Bragdon and Human Resources. The next questioner asks, is there a prospective date as to when staff will begin returning back to campus just as a normal course of business?
We're looking at returning staff back to campus after the 4th of July holiday.
Okay, so everyone hear that, and please share that with your colleagues. The prospective date as to when staff will begin returning back to campus en masse is after the 4th of July holiday. Thank you, Vice Chancellor, for that. The next question, we'll go back. Well, we'll stay with you, Vice Chancellor Bragdon, for this one. Will faculty and staff members that pay to use the recreation center be able to use the facility? I think ostensibly here, this is over the summer and then going into the fall.
So, let me repeat the question. Are faculty and staff able to use the rec center over the summer?
And into the fall?
That I'm not sure about. I've deferred to Dr. Pierce on that. I'm not sure what the normalcy for faculty staff using the rec center is.
Dr. Pierce?
That is under review.
Okay.
So look forward to more information on
Yes.
that. As with all of the questions today, and particularly those questions that we won't be able to get to within our allotted time, you'll want to go to the Aggies Care site, where we will put together an FAQ and get good, firm answers to the questions, both that were asked and to those, maybe even more importantly, that we weren't able to surface today. There's a questioner who asks, how will 2020 graduating students be notified to pick up tickets? That notification process is underway. It has been underway for the past week between the Office of the Registrar and graduating students. If you have questions about picking up tickets for graduation, please reach out to the Office of the Registrar. We encourage graduating students to get the information directly from the Registrar's office so that we can make certain that all messaging going to them about commencement is the official final word that we've all agreed on for that. So the Office of the Registrar will be able to help you with that. Vice Chancellor Pompey, let's return back to you for a parking services question. One of our questioners asked, will parking services have a flexible parking permit option?
I guess I would like to understand a little bit more about what a flexible parking permit option means. What I would say is that that we would encourage you to register for parking when you are planning to return back to campus. So if you are scheduled to come back in July, of course, you would register for parking then. If you're scheduled to come back in September, we would ask that you register for parking at that point in time. Now, if you do not want to get a parking pass, and that if you feel like weekly passes, parking permits may be a better option for you, that is also something that you can pursue. But
Great. So just to be clear on that, Vice Chancellor, that means that if someone expects not to be on campus for the coming 3 weeks, but they do expect to be on campus on the 4th week, then they could purchase a parking pass for that 4th week, but not for the 3 weeks on which they won't be on campus.
that's correct.
Okay, great. I hope that answers that question. We're guessing a little bit at what your meaning is here, but we do see that there is some flexibility within that. You don't just have a single choice of either a parking permit or not. You can get these on a weekly by weekly basis, depending on your needs. So please make your plans appropriately. Dr.
And
Webb?
Todd,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, and please feel free to contact our parking services department with any questions that you may have and with specifics that you have in mind.
Great. And Vice Chancellor Pompey, is the parking services office available for walk-in questions?
Yes.
Great. So that's always a wonderful way to get your questions answered from the helpful staff and parking there. Just drive over to the parking garage. Their office is on the ground floor, I think, as most folks know, and very helpful team there that will help you with your question and getting that resolved. Dr. Webb, let's go back to you for this one. If all staff in an area have been fully vaccinated, is the recommendation still to have an empty cubicle between individuals? And perhaps this is a Mr. Perkins question, but we'll count on both of you to reply here. Dr. Webb, any CDC or other direction that we would point to for this?
So the CDC suggests that if everyone in a particular area has been vaccinated, that a mask is not required. However, the university could certainly supersede that recommendation and require that masks be required. And I think that that's where we're standing right now.
And this actually is asking about an empty cubicle. So, Mr. Perkins, what would our recommendation be with regard to an empty cubicle between individuals?
As far as we're concerned, the CDC guidelines indicate in terms of the social distancing, that would be fine. If you have an empty cubicle between two individuals, that gives you the 6 feet, you're back to back, that's fine.
Great, thank you very much. Dr. Webb, back to you for one on masking. I'm going to paraphrase here. This is a questioner who still sees a lot of staff and faculty who are not wearing masks. How long will we continue to strongly recommend that those who are on our campus are wearing masks, and that if they go into service offices, dining areas, other indoor areas, that they're adhering to masking protocols?
So masking is required on campus. So if there's a particular area that you're concerned about where people are not adhering to that recommendation, then I would suggest reporting that to Human Resources so that that can be addressed.
Great. And does that also apply to folks outdoors? We saw recent lifting of some of the restriction from CDC around outdoor masking in areas where people are not tightly congregated. Where does A&T come down on that?
Yeah, so the recent recommendation that came out said that if you're outside, that you can be unmasked. And so that's kind of where we stand right now. If you're vaccinated, you can be unmasked. Let me make that part clear. You have to be vaccinated.
Great. We have another question on the 6-credit summer scholarships that are being provided for our students this summer. And the question is whether that 6-credit summer scholarship is limited to students who are on financial aid. I don't think it is, but once again, let's turn back to Vice Chancellor Pompey for a ruling.
It is not limited to students that are receiving financial aid, but what we are asking is that any student that's applying for that scholarship complete the FAFSA. So you can complete the FAFSA, and oftentimes it may indicate to you that you may not qualify for federal grants or things of this nature. It may indicate that you may only qualify for loans. And even if you've turned those loans down, we do require that you complete the FAFSA to receive this aid.
And of course, it's limited to students who have registered for summer courses. The cutoff date for that was last Friday. I don't believe that's being extended. Provost, are we officially over now with summer registration?
Todd, Provost had to attend to
Oh, I'm
another
very
matter
sorry.
within academic affairs.
Sure. Is there anyone else who can answer the question over summer registration and whether that's concluded? I believe our cutoff date was April 30th for that. So unless you see otherwise about that date being extended, then summer school registration is over. And those students who qualify for the summer scholarships should be made aware of that very quickly here if they've not already been made aware of it. Mr. Perkins, let's turn back to you for one on air purifying machines. A questioner asked whether those machines have been purchased and are they being placed in large classrooms and auditorium settings?
We have purchased several what we call air cleaning portable devices. As we see how the provost and others arrange the classes and where the large numbers of students are congregated in specific areas, we'll deploy those as we see the requirement be generated.
Great, thank you very much. Vice Chancellor Brogdon, we're going to move back to you for a pair of questions here. And we'll see if you can get all of this in a single response. The questioner wants to know where they can access the ADA accommodation form to request for remote work due to a high-risk medical condition like asthma or diabetes. And further, when you talked earlier about people with asthma, are people with chronic lung disease expected to file ADA to qualify for flexible work?
Okay, so if a person feels like they have a qualifiable disability under ADA, you can go to the HR site to access the ADA request form. If you're simply interested in remote work, that is separate from ADA. So if we want to do the ADA process first to see if you've got a qualifiable disability, to see if perhaps remote work could be a part of the accommodation process. So I hope that answers the question. So if you go to the HR website, and forgive me for not knowing exactly where it is, it's probably somewhere under employee relations or equal opportunity. That would be Linda Mangum's area. The form is probably there to request an accommodation under ADA, because for ADA, we look at a variety of options to accommodate a particular disability. So it doesn't always have to be remote work. So if the request is simply remote work, you may want to just start with the remote work request. But if you're thinking about you may have an ADA or a disability under ADA, that paperwork would come first.
Okay, great. And there's one more question here that we'll allow for you, Vice Chancellor Brogdon,
Sure.
before we conclude the Q&A period here. Is there a template for requests for those flexible schedule requests?
That is under review. We currently do have a form and process, but that was based under the current policy that's in place. Again, we just got new guidance from the system office late last week. So we'll be working with legal affairs to make any necessary changes to our current policy. And in that process, we'll be looking at how to request it. So you can go and use the current form that's there to request flexible work options, but that's going to be based on the way the policy is as it stands today. We have not made the adjustment to the A&T policy since we just got the UNC policy guidance Thursday afternoon. So if you're talking about something for fall, if you could give us just a couple of weeks, we plan on working through making adjustments to our policy and procedure, because we're looking at finding a way to automate the request for flexible work options. So, but if you need to do it now, the form is there. And you can go and access that form on the HR website.
Very helpful. And just as a reminder, whenever we post forms and policies, we typically place them on the Aggie Hub portion of our website, which is, of course, the faculty, staff, and student intranet for things really that are specific to current employees and current students on our campus. You can count on University Relations and collaboration with Human Resources pushing out information to new templates and new guidance on accommodations as it becomes available, and then archiving all of that information under announcements on the coronavirus/Aggies Care website. We see that some of our participants are dropping off the call. Some of our leaders have had to drop off already. We thank you for all the questions, along with the answers to those questions, particularly those that weren't asked, and the recording of this webinar. Please check, once again, the coronavirus/Aggies-Care website later in the week. On behalf of Chancellor Martin, Provost McEwen, and the other leadership members who are on the call this afternoon, thank you for your participation and hanging in there over some of the technical snags. And please make sure to share with your colleagues that this recording will be available on the site if they were not able to get in or otherwise had to miss this session today. Good luck on the best of a remaining term. And for those of you coming to commencement this Sunday, we look forward to seeing you in person there for what promises to be 2 beautiful ceremonies. Thank you all. Congratulations on a wonderful year. Have a great rest of the day. Take care.